Friends, lovers and fellow poker degenerates, I am Billy and this is the Billy Bluff Poker Vlog.
Join us and we'll have some fun, taking cash off everyone, playing cards till 2 AM, then wake up and do it again. It's Billy Bluff, Billy Bluff.
So it's a Sunday evening. We're back on our way to Manchester 235 to play in a 1-1 match the stack game. So match the stack, for anybody not familiar, means you can buy in for a max of 200 and then you can match a stack on the table. So if someone's got 2-3 grand in front of them, which sometimes they do, it plays crazy big sometimes. You can match that stack if you wish. I don't normally go that high. I'll maybe sort of match up to 500 or 600. I don't think there's huge point in going any higher. I've not got a bankroll as such, which I'll be putting on at the end of this vlog to sort of track, because I've got a job, I've got a business, so a bankroll really is for pro or semi-pro players. I just simply, if I do lose my so-called bankroll, I just, rebuy essentially. It's not unlimited, of course. I'm not that rich, or rich at all. So yeah, normally 400 or 500 is a good amount to buy in for. Hoping for some juicy action tonight. Apparently, like, the button game has been playing, and the 7-2 games. The 7-2 game is where you'll maybe want to. Oh, police car going past me. Hopefully that's not for me.
Yeah, I know. I wanna say I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's you might want to. The 7-2 game is where if you pick up 7-2 and you end up winning that hand, it's the worst hand in poker, 7-2 offsuit. You collect bounties from other players. It's only small, I think, but it's fun nonetheless. So yeah, looking forward to it, and let's see what happens when we get there.
So yes, as we make our way through the mean streets of Manchester, just a couple of things about this week. First of all, if I sound slightly bunged up, it's because I am. I've got possibly the worst case of man flu the world has ever known, but I'm going to power through for you guys, all 9 subscribers or whatever I've got. So yeah, the entertainment comes first. Second of all, very quick shout out to Gazzy B, one of the UK's, in my opinion, best poker vloggers. He dropped me a message last week after seeing episode 1. Really nice thing to do, just some kind words and a bit of advice. I've never actually met Gazzy, but spoken to him a few times over Instagram and stuff, and he seems like a really nice guy. So I've dropped his YouTube vlogging link in the description below. So yeah, on to tonight. I'll be honest, it was not fun remotely. It was not easy, not in terms of the difficulty of the hands or big decisions, but I was just card dead. So yeah, I'm going to post descriptions of certain phrases. Some of the feedback I had was that like beginners or people who don't know much about poker would like to follow along a little bit easier, so I'm going to try and strike a balance between catering to people who don't know much about the game, but also to people who do as much as I can. It's going to be a bit of a tricky balancing act, but I'm going to do my best. So yeah, let's see how we get on this evening. So on to the first hand of the evening. You'll note the time, it's 25 past 9, 2.5 hours more or less of being absolutely card dead. The non-glamorous side of poker where you just got to sit there and take your medicine until you pick up something half decent. I'm not a nit by any stretch of the imagination, but just sometimes you just get no playable, no workable hands. So ace of hearts, king of diamonds, we bet to 6 and get 2 callers. The jack of hearts, 9 of diamonds, 2 of clubs flop is just whiff central. So we decide to check it through against 2 people. We can still be ahead of some hands as well, so there's no point in bluffing at this stage. The turn comes the 4 of hearts, and now the small blind decides to lead out for 12. The big blind gets out the way, and we decide to make the call. Feels a bit stabby, feels weak, really, in my opinion, particularly when the river comes a 9 of diamonds and the small blind checks. Now the reason I've included this hand is because I do bluff it at the end. It's highly unlikely he's on a 9. He would definitely bet that. Maybe a weak jack, maybe an under pair. So what I do, I bet out for 45 here, just slightly over pot. And he has a little think about it before letting it go. So yeah, this is just about me thinking the small blind has a really capped range here and taking advantage of that and taking down, only a small pot, but just to demonstrate the bluff in this circumstance, because I included 0 bluffs last week, despite the fact that this is called Billy Bluff Poker. On to the next hand. I actually started recording this hand late because I didn't think it was of any particular interest, because I had 3 of spades, 2 of clubs in the small blind. Absolute garbage, but this is what we call a limp pot. We have 4 limpers and I limp, and the big blind checks his option. So the flop is really interesting. 4 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds. The small blind leads out for 5 and gets 2 callers. Now this again just screams weakness from the two callers in between. What you can't be here is scared of those diamonds. We've got the bottom end of a straight. So I raise it up to 20. The small blind quickly folds. The under the gun +1 folds, and MP makes the call. The turn comes a 10 of hearts, doesn't really change too much, and I decide to continue to try and get value here. So I bet out for 25, and the mid position player makes the call. The river, in my opinion, actually doesn't change much. It's the 5 of diamonds, the 5 of clubs. I'm actually hoping here he's got a 5. It's a limp pot. I'm not concerned about a boat because I think he would have raised a set earlier in the hand, obviously for value. So I decide to again go for a bit of thin value here, bet 50. He thinks about it and he folds. But yeah, just to demonstrate that you don't always be scared of a flop texture like this. When you've got a strong hand, you've got to show aggression, combined with a bit of intelligence, obviously. And I feel like we got about as much value as we could have done here, given it was a limped pot.
Yeah, but I do know they kill the execute gear people.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was some of the table talk I had to deal with during this 7-hour session. So on to the next hand. We have 3-4 of clubs in the big blind, which is obviously a premium hand to raise with. I think here I'm just getting a little bit tilted because I'm not picking up any great hands. People limping, so I thought let's attack the limpers. I raised it up to 12 after 4 limps, and we get 2 calls. So there's around about £39 in the pot. The flop comes down, ace of spades, 2 of clubs, 10 of hearts. So we've got a couple of backdoor things coming on, but more importantly here, I can represent all the big hands because I've 3 bets, so we can represent a big ace. And I decide to lead out for £15. We get 1 fold and 1 call, giving us £69 in the pot. The turn comes the jack of clubs. Again, we've got that club draw. If we hit a 5, we hit our straight, and I always prefer aggression in these spots. So I decide to fire out for around about 3/4 pot, £45, maybe just a bit less than 3/4 pot. And obviously we're looking for the fold here. If they call, then we evaluate the river and we decide whether we're going to triple barrel and blast off to try and take down the pot. But in this particular circumstance, we get the fold. I'm not suggesting you play 3-4 clubs out the big blind as a 3-bet over limps. It's not particularly GTO, but on this occasion, like I say, I was just a little bit card dead, a little bit frustrated, wanted to make something happen. It's a flaw in my game. Shoot me. I want action. And we move on to the next hand. So this next hand I'm including doesn't get further than the pre-flop, but just to demonstrate the kind of table I was dealing with and what I'm talking about when I speak about nits, particularly in a live scenario. So we have King Jack of Hearts, and there is a mid-position raise to 10. The straddle is on 112, and I decide to 3-bet to 30, which is perfectly acceptable. It's a really lovely premium hand to play, particularly in position. Folds back around to mid-position, and they end up making the fold. They muck their cards, show me the ace of diamonds, and say they had ace queen of diamonds, which I've got no reason to not believe. But I mean, really, in this circumstance, just don't fold ace queen of diamonds to a 3-bet. Yes, technically it's a discipline laydown. We're talking about GTO, but it's either a call or a 4-bet in my view. Just don't play live poker and fold hands like this, please.
It's too tight.
So here we go, a proper hand now, a proper premium. The Krispy Kremes, the Karate Kids, the Cowboys, the King of Clubs, and the King of Hearts. We raise it up to 6 from under the gun, and we get 2 callers. The flop comes down, 5 of clubs, ace of spades, 3 hearts. So yes, there's an ace in the window, but there are still a few hands we can get value from. So we decide to bet £8 into the pot. We get a fold and a call from the small blind. The turn comes the interesting ace of diamonds. Interesting because it does make it a bit less likely that the small blind has an ace, but also means that we're not really going to get much value here if we do decide to bet out. So we decide to check, and it checks through, and the river comes down, the 7 of hearts. Now the small blind here actually decides to lead for £25. I think really here, I knew he probably did have an ace at this stage. It's a strange bet if not, but I was, as I said before, I was a bit on tilt, and I basically called, and he shows me the boat. He shows me ace 7. So yeah, he well and truly smashed that pot, and we have another horrible hand history for the evening.
We can't do anything right!
A more fun hand now, or at least fun as far as I'm concerned. Ace 2 of diamonds under the gun is what we wake up with. There's a straddle on, so it's 1-1-2, and I feel like the ace 2 of diamonds here is good enough on this table to raise to 8. We get a caller, and then cut off raises to 30. So I was probably ready to muck my cards at this point, but because the straddle then decides to call at 30, we've got a couple of options here. We can effectively 4-bet, putting huge pressure on the 3-better, because obviously we know that the straddle here isn't super strong because he would have raised himself. But I decided just to make the call, and I think that with it being obviously suited hand, we've got nut flush potential. I think middle position is probably going to call, which he does, so he doesn't raise either. So we're going into a flop with a reasonably large pot, but with a good holding. I think if I 4-bet here, yeah, I'm going to fold out some of the 3-betters. Weaker hands, but then if we get 5-bet, it's a bit of a nightmare because we can't really call that. So yeah, I feel like I made the right choice, and the flop comes ace of clubs, 8 of spades, 3 of diamonds, obviously giving us top pair and also a couple of backdoor draws as well, nut flush backdoor and potential for a straight as well, and we're feeling really good when it checks around. So it then goes to a turn, which is the 5 of diamonds. And here, after these straddle checks, I want to lead out, and the only question is sizing. So I decide to go for a sizing of £70 into the approximate £120 pot. So a little bit more than half. What I'm trying to accomplish here is I do want draws staying in, obviously, and that's really what we're targeting. Maybe some 8x, maybe some 6-7. Obviously, we have the nut flush draw and we have top pair. Yeah, all right. It may be that someone has got an ace, and if they have, it's going to be better than ours. But I still feel that with 4 plays in the pot, I think this is a good bet to accomplish, getting some draws to call. And then the river comes the jack of clubs. Now here I feel like I'm going really thin on value. I don't see what I'm going to get value from at this stage, and indeed after a few seconds I do decide to check back. What's really frustrating is that the straddle shows king queen of diamonds, so if a diamond had hit, it was payday, baby. But unfortunately they were looking for a draw, and our race is good, so we scoop in a reasonable pot on this occasion and cannot complain. So on to the last hand of the evening, and this is just one of the weirdest hands I've played in a long time, either live or online. Just utterly bizarre. So it starts off pretty normal. The under the gun raises to 5. He gets a call from the button 5, and I decide with 7-8 diamonds to bump it up to 25 in the small blind. Again, perfectly acceptable hand to 3-bet with after there's been a call after the original raiser, and the original raiser in the cutoff, he makes the call and the button gets out of the way. So we look forward to a flop, and that flop is ace of spades, 7 of hearts, and jack of clubs. So this is actually a really good flop for our range here, and we do decide to again range bet, leading out for 15 into the pot of approximately 56, something along those lines. He doesn't think for too long before making the call, and I'm basically ready to give up at this stage because yeah, that call just says to me that he's most likely got an ace or a jack or possibly a draw. But yeah, I was ready to give up until ring a ding ding, the 8 of clubs comes out.
I mean, seriously, I feel like I'm financially inside of you or something.
Okay.
I'm jacked.
I'm jacked to the tits!
We now have 2 pair. The reason this is such a good card for us is because if he's got an ace, we're ahead of every ace he has, unless it's ace jack. And I think he probably would have raised that on the flop. And if he wasn't going to raise it on the flop, he'd certainly raise it on the turn. So I lead out here for 60. And our friend here, he goes deep into the tank. Now, this hand in its entirety was 10 minutes long. Obviously, I'm not going to show you all 10 minutes because you'd probably rather watch a Lex-o vlog than watch a 10-minute hand.
Oh, damn!
But yeah, needless to say, this guy goes deep into the tank. He is struggling to think of what to do here. And I'm like, what could he possibly have here? I'm thinking it must be a jack because obviously I'm betting strong. I've bet on both streets, and he must be thinking, oh, has he really got an ace? Or, and is my jack good? That's why I thought in the moment. And we did have a bit of history, myself and this chap, earlier in the night. He basically called off a bluff of mine, super light, earlier in the evening. So that's kind of playing in my head a bit. That's why I went for a slightly, larger bet, 60 into the pot of 86. He takes a long time, but eventually, excuse me, he does make the call. So we obviously want to see a nice river here. An 8 or 7 would be absolutely superb. Unfortunately, one of the very worst cards in the deck rolls off, and that's the Ace of Hearts. So what this does now, it effectively counterfeits our 2 pair. If he had a jack, if he had maybe even queens, although I think he's probably 4-betting them, but let's say he's got 10s or even 9s if he gets here with 9s. Yeah, my 2 pair is now counterfeit, and I've simply got aces and 8s with a jack kicker. So I am not happy about this, but my stack is down to, I've got about a pot-sized bet left, and after thinking about it for a little bit, I decide to go
All in.
all in. I'm not happy with this, but I was just at the stage where this was late in the evening. I'd not had a good session. I was on tilt, and I was like, oh, this is just the worst possible card I could ever see. So the other thing I can do here is jam and represent a super nutted hand. Ace king, ace queen, ace jack, some kind of ace. And I'm expecting, honestly, either a snap call or a pretty quick fold, but he does neither. Again, he goes into the tank. So he's thinking about it, and I am just willing every fibre of my being, trying to show strength here.
Bitte, du kannst den Hermann doch nicht umbringen lassen.
Es besteht überhaupt kein Zweifel, er wollte fliehen.
Aber was bedeutet das schon noch? Es ist ja eh alles vorbei. Denk doch an meine arme Schwester. Sie ist vom Hermann schwanger.
Ja, mit Himmler kollaboriert er ist ein Verräter.
Trying to look relaxed, look like I want to show my cards down, and just give off that aura of, my friend, you are beat, save your money. After a long think about it, he does eventually decide to make the fold, and that's not the strange bit. The strange bit is that he tells me he had pocket nines, or he showed me he had pocket nines. The absolute disrespect. Obviously, he put me on some kind of missed draw. Um, and like, yeah, obviously it was a pot size bet, my river jam all in, and I don't know whether to applaud the fact that he took the best part of 5 minutes to fold or not. But yeah, this was me done for the evening. This just about pushed me over the edge. Obviously, my rep at the table was one of an absolute bluffer indeed, Billy Bluff. So we wrapped it up for the evening here, booked a loss, and decided to live to fight another day.
So there we have it, this week's instalment. A very frustrating session, it has to be said. Basically, I was going to start a bankroll thing where I have my stack and bankroll on the screen during the hands, but I think that's going to be tricky logistically. So what I'm going to do is, starting from effectively now, i.e. episode 3, I'm going to put like a tracker on. So I'm going to start at 0 because the last 2 sessions have basically cancelled each other out. Start at 0, and that way hopefully it'll make it a bit more interesting for people to follow along with. I'll put it at the start and end of each episode, and hopefully by the end of the year hopefully we'll be up, and hopefully we'll have a decent pot that we've earned over the year. So it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from Mr. Thor, even though he's really not interested. And we'll see you next time on the Billy Bluff Poker Vlog.
Billy Bluff. Billy Bluff.